the tape for this, our main event of the evening. We introduce the champion, Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan. Let's get it on!
What's up, guys? We are here to go over Bellator 301 in Chicago this weekend. I'll go ahead and I didn't tell you beforehand, but I guess I'll be the first to announce it. This will be the last Bellator. We're not fighting December. There are rumors, and I don't really care. There are rumors that PFL may have some shows next year under the Bellator banner.
Okay.
But run by PFL, just to kind of see some things. I don't know if that's real or not real, but this will be the last Bellator card by the Bellator people.
So is Luke no longer in camp?
No, we're not. I mean, we're training, but not to prepare for December because there's definitely not going to be a December card. We are going to try and be on the very first anything card, whether it's PFL putting on a Bellator card, whether it's PFL having fight nights or PFL having the tournament. We want to be right away because we were the first group of guys that fought on these last few cards. We were the first of the last few cards, and so we're the first ready, and others fought after us. Our whole entire division, the whole featherweight division fought basically up. This weekend will be the end of that, but everyone in the division will have fought, and we were on the first leg of that, so he would like to get back in there and fight ASAP. Have no idea, we're in La La Land out here somewhere because I have no idea how it's going to be, what it's going to be, who it's going to be for. There's just so much. It's kind of crappy. I mean, it's really crappy.
It's really,
for not just us, the fighters, for Bellator staff, for no one knows anything what's going on. So it's, I probably shouldn't say even what I'm saying, but it is shitty, and someone should have to speak up real quick because after Bellator happens this weekend, that'll be that.
I mean,
at that point, somebody's need to say something because at that we still aren't allowed to engage in conversation with other people, other organizations.
I was going to ask
until that happens. So I'm sure we'll hear something soon.
So you're still in a blackout period. You can't talk to any other promotions.
Correct.
I went on the website again and looked. There's nothing else. I mean, I know you're saying maybe you shouldn't say something, but
someone should.
The fact that Bellator isn't saying anything screams volumes.
It's not Bellator. Well, it's not Bellator, the staff of Bellator.
Right.
It's Viacom. Right. Bellator, the people aren't getting bought. Viacom is selling their product to someone else or however they're doing it to someone else. But the people that work for Bellator are getting screwed just as much as the fighters are.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about your office staff,
those are our favorite people
team.
In the world.
Those are people like me that work behind a desk as their day job, but they just work for a really cool organization, and they're losing their jobs as well, most likely.
It's a bummer.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens.
That's awful.
Real good card though.
Really, really good. And there are like 17 fights or something like that. I mean, it's a nutty number of fights. We'll preview the main card, which has 5 really good fights, and there's a question to be answered there.
Right.
But before we get there, let's talk about Timur and Justin Gonzalez, which is the one card in the prelims the one fight in the prelims you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I wanted to go over that because Timur's number 6, Justin Gonzalez is number 7, and Lucas is number 8.
Okay.
So those two, a loss for one of them could put them potentially behind us.
Yeah.
And not just flip-flop. Just basing on how the media has done the ranking system, but which would be cool because then it would end with us, somewhere in the. I mean, we're ending number 8 or better.
Yeah.
So that's great, but I'm really interested in that fight. Cody Law is also fighting earlier in the night. He's not fighting anybody, but he's had a little bit of a run. So. A tough run, so he's kind of got to what would look like a gimme-ish fight. And then the Teamer Gonzalez fight, I'm excited about that. Gonzalez has impressed me, and then he's not impressed me. So it's very hard to get a read on him. So I want to watch him again this week. I think the Hizarev Teamer.
Yep.
He was impressive against Adam Borix, I believe. Was it Adam Borix? No.
Weichel?
Dan Weichel. He was impressive in that fight. Good striking. Wasn't a lot on the ground. So I don't know what to expect. Justin Gonzalez is a good wrestler, but he couldn't stay on Mads Burnell for all the money in the world. Every time he get a takedown, he get reversed and end up on bottom.
Yep.
So he could have had an off night. So it's very hard for me to read that guy. So I definitely am going to tune in to watch this fight, just because who knows what's going to happen once this thing lines up. For next year, they could just be fighting all the ranked guys against each other to see who's going where.
Right.
So
Gonzalez is coming in 2-2 in his last two fights. You mentioned the loss to Mads Burnell. He's also got a loss to Aaron Pico, with two notable wins in between, with your friend Kai Kamaka III as well as Andrew Fisher.
Right. And Kai sitting at number 9.
Yeah.
Low key call out Luke here and there again recently. And it's I get it,
Yeah.
But at the same time, we would rather call out someone like Justin Gonzalez. Why would we want to fight the guy who's right behind us?
Yeah.
And run the risk of going backwards? We're trying to go forward just like Kai is. So
Yep.
I get Kai calling him out. He mentioned somebody else too. I forget who, but for us, like, I would be looking at someone like Justin Gonzalez, Pedro Cavallo, one of those guys.
Gonzalez, of his wins, of the 14 wins that he has, it looks like 9 of them are coming by way of decision. He likes to go the distance.
Yeah.
He doesn't have. He's got a couple four by strikes, and he's got 1 submission. Teamer's a different story. He's coming in undefeated.
Yeah.
Really solid fighter, and if you look at the stats for him, actually, he's coming in actually a real similar split. 9 wins by decision, 3 wins by strikes, and 1 win by submission. So they fight similar fights.
The only thing you see when you see guys that have a lot of decisions, number one, they're hard to get out of there, right? Whether they win or lose,
Yep.
They're hard to get out of there. And they've got a lot of cage time.
Yeah.
You get someone with 9 decisions, out of 14 fights or however many he has, 7 decisions out of however many fights he has.
That's
a lot
27
of
rounds.
time. Yeah, it's a lot of time. And some may have been for the belt, in other organizations.
Sure.
So they may have been 5-5s.
Sure.
They didn't, all their fights weren't in Bellator. So you just never know. But they've got a lot of cage time. So it's a lot of experience.
So
But they also struggle to put people away.
yeah, I guess that's a double-edged sword there.
Right.
So, do you have a prediction?
I'm gonna go with Justin Gonzalez.
Okay. Ooh.
I think that's
handing Teamer's
risky.
first loss. That is.
Yeah, I
risky.
think that's a risky thing, but
So it's risky in a couple ways. One, he's undefeated, and number 2, he's Russian.
right. And
So-
I rarely
you
bet against the
rarely
Russians.
bet against the Russians.
Is Justin Gonzalez from Ukraine or anything?
No, I mean he's fight.
He's not. He's from,
No.
he's from the United States.
He's probably. It looks like he's from Colorado.
Yeah,
so,
he's actually in the corner of Ben Lugo when Lucas fought Ben Lugo.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm.
Love it.
I'll go with Justin.
That's awesome.
Why not?
Patricky Pitbull and Alexander Shabley. This is for the Grand Prix. We hinted at this, and probably time to have that discussion. What happens at the Grand Prix?
Well, I don't know if you've seen the news recently, but Usman Nurmagomedov
Yep.
tested positive,
Saw
suspended for 6 months.
6 months.
Didn't strip him of the belt, but he's not fighting for the title, for the tournament.
Okay.
So apparently, Brent Primus, who was already an alternate coming into the
So he just got a
thing,
bye
is
and
now
just
now they're bringing him back in for the main event or for the title fight. But
talk about backdooring your way into
but
the
I don't know
finals.
that any of this even matters Because unless PFL is putting that fight on next year,
Yeah.
if the PFL is what is happening,
Yeah.
then that fight's not even happening. So someone's gonna owe them $1 million. They're gonna have to fight in someone's backyard for $1 million. Like when they get to the finals, someone's gonna have to fight for that money.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like I'm sure I'm not supposed to be even talking about this stuff, but I'm not. It is what it is. We're not breaching any contract because no one's ever told me that this is what's happening.
Right.
Don't talk about this.
Right.
Whatever. No one said anything. So we're, just sitting here reading headlines. But I can tell you that the ones that were like, PFL is going to run Bellator for 2 years, blah, blah, blah. That's not the case. They're not going to have them for 2 years. They're going to kind of get some stuff done right off the bat, and that'll be all. But I don't know what will happen for that Grand Prix belt, the championship, the $1 million Grand Prix.
Does Chablis put up? I think
Chablis can beat him.
Okay.
Chablis knocked out Primus on our Phoenix card when we were there. He's solid, and he's good size, man. I don't know how tall he is, but he's a decent size 55er.
They list him at 5'9".
5'9". Okay, so
You buy that?
I think Primus is 5'10". Yeah, it'll be interesting. Patricky is not tall, but he's taller than Patricio.
Yeah, but I feel like Patricki's got a little bit of that Alexander Volkanovski thing where he's used to fighting in a phone booth because that's how he has to fight. He's got to get in and get close. Patricki's listed at 5'7".
Yeah.
I've asked this question a lot. I don't know if this matters here. Does age matter?
Of course.
37 for Pitbull. Chablis coming in at
20.
how old is he? He's born in 93, age 30.
30.
So,
yeah.
Right in the
So
prime.
he's in his prime.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Chablis in that fight.
Wow. I feel like that's a little bit of an I don't know if it's underdog is the right word. I think a lot of people on paper are picking Pitbull on this.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, Patricio or Patricky both have a knockout chance with anybody.
Yep.
Right? They carry that power. I don't think he has the same power that his brother has, but he definitely has a lot of power. I think that Chablis. I'm gonna go with Chablis.
Cool.
I pick him to probably not finish him, but it's a 5-rounder, so it's possible.
Is this the last time we see Patricky in the cage?
It's the last time we see Patricky in the Bellator cage.
I set you up for that one. Sorry, that's my bad.
I don't know. Maybe. Not if he wins. If he wins, we'll see him fight somewhere because he'll be fighting for that $1 million. It might be in court, but we'll see him fight.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. AJ McKee, Sydney Outlaw. AJ McKee's 20-1, Outlaw 17-5.
So before where did Lucas fight last? South Dakota?
Yes.
Was it South Dakota?
That's right.
So before his South Dakota fight, I would have picked AJ to run over Sydney Outlaw.
Okay.
I then watched Sydney Outlaw fight that night, and I think he fought Mamedov or someone, a Russian, and wrestled his brains out all night. He took him down and dominated him on the ground the entire fight. And his wrestling, I didn't realize how good his wrestling was, and it was very good. It was solid. And so I think, and he was very tough, I think he has the potential to make it a very exciting fight or a very boring fight, but I feel he has a potential to make it exciting as far as he can make it close. He can make it difficult for AJ. Also, AJ could steamroll him right off the bat because that's what he does sometimes.
So Outlaw did miss weight on that Mamedov fight.
Yeah.
So do you think it doesn't? I have to go back. I don't see. It looks like he missed weight another time, but that was way back in 2014, early in Bellator 118. I think I'm sure that AJ will. If he misses weight, AJ is not going to stop talking about that.
Right.
So initially, you would have given it to AJ. Outlaw can wrestle.
I'm still giving it to AJ.
Okay.
I just think that Sydney was tougher than I thought when I watched the fight against Islam Mamedov. So I think it could now be a little more of an interesting fight than it would have been. Speaking of that weight cut, here's a story. I think we might have talked about it, but maybe we didn't. We're sitting downstairs with Luca, with everyone. Everyone's downstairs. And Sydney Outlaw is sitting there, and he is, I want to say he's still 7 pounds over.
Okay.
And the big jacked guy from ATT fights in Bellator. He's like an 85er, but like body of a complete bodybuilder. I forget his name. He was on Sydney Outlaw's last card.
Let me look really quick.
But it is a banger. He doesn't have what is he missing? Plastics or something, Abilene, something to cut with.
Okay.
And they're taking 20% of his purse, and he gets paid a lot of money. And I was like, "Hey, bro," I said, "I got plastics in Abilene. You can use our sauna, and I'll help you out." Nah, I'll just. And he just wasn't about cutting. Nah, I don't have my stuff. I'm waiting for my bag. I need to wait for my bag to get here. And I was like, "No, like we'll help you get it, so you don't give away 20% of that."
Is it Brennan Ward you're talking about?
Not Brendan Ward.
Storley?
Nope. He wasn't the main event, but he was definitely on the card. He's an 85er, which is what, light heavy?
Yeah.
Or no, it's middle.
This is Sydney Outlaw. Dalton, okay.
Jacked.
Not who I was thinking of.
But he was sitting there, and we were BSing, and I was trying to talk him into just cutting the last few pounds.
Yeah.
I swear, I'm saying 7. Lucas can correct me. It may have been as low as 2 pounds.
Okay.
And he was just not going to cut it. And he wasn't dying. He was just not going to cut it. He didn't have his stuff, and I'm like, I'll help you. And he's like, "Nah, I'm good." And I was like, "You're just going to give away 20% of whatever it is you're making? Because you're on the main card. I know what Luke makes.
Yeah.
So if you're making more money than he's making and you're giving away 20%, holy crap, bro.
Right,
Like,
that's the money.
Clearly you're doing well.
Right.
You know? And so, yeah, it was just so strange. But, yeah, I remember him missing weight now. We had the conversation while it was happening.
So, McKee.
Yeah. I think he beats him. And if it's a 5-rounder,
It is not.
it's not. So, might not get him out of there, but he might.
AJ McKee is a really well-rounded fighter that you know. He's got 20 wins, 7 by decision, 7 by submission, 6 by strikes.
Yeah,
that guy's super well-rounded.
I think not only is he well-rounded, I think he's super, super underestimated. Even as the $1 million champ, even as all that, I still think he's underestimated by people at how good he is all over the place.
How's his fight IQ?
It's good, man. It's good. He's if whatever happens with him, whether he goes to PFL, whether he is able to get released and go to the UFC, whatever happens, he's a top 5 guy wherever he goes.
Wherever he goes.
Yeah. I mean, PFL, he's going to be the champ.
If there had to be a fighter on the last Bellator fight, it had to be Danny Sabatello.
Yeah.
We get to watch Sabatello
Time to talk
fight
about him one more time.
one more time. Rufián Stotts, 19-2 versus 14-3. If I remember right, Stotts won the first of these two. They're running this back.
Yeah. He won a decision that I wanted him to win, but I didn't think he was going to win it.
Yeah.
He was on his back a lot.
Yeah,
He was busy off his back, but he was on his back a lot.
Yep.
And that was one of those first fights that we had watched where I was like, oh, the judging's changing a little bit. If you're aggressive on bottom, if you're busy on bottom,
Yes.
you can still win. And he did. I know Sabatello was pissed.
He was pissed.
I feel like he could definitely beat him this time by making a few adjustments.
Sabatello could beat Stotts.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think Stotts is a better, more well-rounded fighter, but I think Sabatello has the wrestling to make it boring, a little bit more boring.
Yeah.
And I probably said this the first time, the same thing. So I don't know. Stotts is very good, man, and he is a scrambler. He is like as athletic can be. Like, he is the tip top of the athlete scale for sure. So I don't know. I want Stotts to win. I want Stotts to win all day.
Yep.
Sabatello is entertaining to hear talk. He's not entertaining to watch fight. And so I think that's probably why he talks so much. But I don't know. If I had to bet money, I would bet money on Sabatello.
Okay.
But if I was just like, no, bro, Stotts is going to beat him. I've got a buddy that me and him started online about a Sabatello fight a long time ago and talking trash back and forth. He's in Italy.
Okay.
And started talking trash. And then he starts leaving me voice messages. And he's talking trash back and forth in voice messages. Sabatello this, Sabatello this. Sabatello's his guy. And then he went out and he beat him. And then he messaged me. And from that point on, we've been super cool.
Yeah.
And he's like, who's going to win tonight? Who's going to win tonight? Like, every UFC card, he'll ask me. And I'm just like, oh, man, and this time I told him, I said, Sabatello does have a chance to win this time. He goes, yeah, Sabatello. And he's always like at a bar drunk.
That's hilarious. Well, I'm pulling for Stotts. Hopefully he gets it done, and hopefully he sends Sabatello out of Bellator with another L.
Let's hope.
Wouldn't be sad about that. Well, the guy that just beat Rufion Stotts, Patchy Mix, this is the co-main. He's fighting Sergio Pettis, 135. This is going to be a 5-round fight. Patchy Mix coming in at 18-1. Sergio Pettis, the reigning champ, at 23-5.
I'm going to do this to Sergio Pettis again. And I said it during the Pitbull fight that it wasn't going to be close.
Yeah.
And he ended up beating him because I thought Pitbull fought very not smart. I think Patchy Mix runs over Sergio.
Really?
I think he makes it look easy inside 2 rounds.
Wow.
If he gets him to the ground in the first round, it's over in the first round.
Really?
Yeah, if there's 2.5 minutes left in the first round, the fight's over. But if they get to the ground with 2.5 minutes left in the first round, he will not get out of that round. But I think he beats him. I think Patchy beats him in max 2 rounds. I'm going out on a limb. Remember I said that.
The sitting champ. He's just going to run him over.
I think his striking's great. I think his takedown defense is sometimes okay. I think Patchy Mix is probably the best 135er on planet Earth at the moment, and I think he runs over. He's as big as me and taller, and he fights at 135. So I think that Patchy Mix makes it look easy and leaves with not only the $1 million that he got from the tournament, but now the belt, the sort of what do they call it?
The unification
belt, yes.
Because there is an interim.
Well, he got it by winning the tournament. Sergio sat out of the tournament injured with his belt. Yeah. And now Patchy has the belt and is going to fight Sergio for the unification belt.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that one from you at all. That really surprises me.
If someone wants to bet me, send me a bet. Under $500 for 2 rounds or under, Patchy.
Really?
Yes.
Woo. I'm not taking that action.
You can make that a reel.
I'm going to.
Good. Let's go. Who's next?
Main event, man. Amosov and Jason Jackson. What do you know about Jason Jackson?
So Jason Jackson fought on a card that we fought on also at Mohegan. I believe he fought Douglas Lima, and he beat Douglas Lima, wrestled him to death, didn't throw very many punches at all. Am I right? Did he fight Douglas Lima?
He did, Bellator 283.
Yeah, and he beat him, and he was a former champ, Douglas Lima. So Jason Jackson had wrestling better than I expected. Man, that is nothing new for Amosov.
Yeah.
He came back. Was it him that came? He went to war, right? Yeah, he's the one that came back from going to war in Ukraine and fought Storley.
Logan Storley, correct.
And God, did he look good.
Ran him
He
over.
looked so good. I'm so impressed. What's his record? 27-0?
Yes, sir.
27-0. I think Jason Jackson's a great fighter, wrestler, big guy, tall, long, lanky, and I just don't think he's got it. I think that if it was anybody else, he's got a chance at being the champion that night, but I think Amosov leaves 28-0. And then his stock is through the roof. You know, like I would fight out my contract. I don't know how many he's got left, but I would fight it out and let the UFC put up some Michael Chandler, Eddie Alvarez money to get me.
Yeah. So he fights at this is what 85 fight. What's
70.
So
Do you know? We talk about this all the time. That's my weight class. That's the weight class I fought the majority of my career in.
Right.
I'm 173 now, so obviously I'm much smaller. But the guys now are so giant. You know, me and Luke got out of the elevator one time, Mohegan Sun, and Diego Lima walked up next to me and he's like, "Hey, I'm a fan." And I look up and I'm like, "Me too." I was like, "What? What?" I was like, "You're in my division." You know, could not believe these guys are all giant now. And I cut a lot of weight. So who knows
What'd you
what
walk
they're
around
doing.
at? If you were fighting at
90, 95.
Okay.
But I also walked around 90, 95 when I fought at 55.
That's just not human. That's nuts.
I did a 206 to 155 in 8 weeks for my first cut to 55.
So I'm trying to see. I wish I had this top of mind. Who is the 70 champ right now in UFC? It's
UFC,
not Strickland, is it?
No, that's 85. Who even fights at 170 in the UFC now?
I was trying to pull it up. And
all the other divisions are so crazy at the moment. The lighter, 55, 45, 35. 170.
I should know this.
I don't even know.
I know. It makes me wonder who's
the 170-pound UFC champion? Leon Edwards.
Oh, of course.
Leon Edwards, who beat Kamaru Usman
twice.
Right.
Sorry. I mean, you look at what Asimov is doing, and you got to think that
Amosov,
yeah. You got to think that Dana would be thirsty for that fight.
I mean, they've got. I know they're in the process of signing MVP right now.
Okay.
UFC is.
Yep.
He fought out his contract. He's been in discussions with them for a while.
Yep.
I believe they will keep him. He's an asset, especially in the UFC. A lot of strikers. I think Amosov is a huge asset to them. You know, if they are interested in getting him. I don't know how many fights he has left on his contract, so they can't just have him, right? So he has to figure out his whole PFL thing again, if it's PFL. But same for us. We have 3 fights left on our contract.
If somebody like Amosov comes in and let's say he runs over Leon Edwards for the sake of conversation, and let's say he holds that belt for a little bit, you could say the same thing for Usman Nurmagomedov as well. That's an interesting fight at 55. What does that do to Dana's stock and to the UFC stock if you've got Bellator people coming in and instantly showing some domination?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, nothing's going to hurt their stock, but at the same time, it would definitely hurt his ego,
right?
You know, and
I guess you can
that's something that needs to happen though, just to legitimize the level of the top guys in Bellator. The top guys in Bellator are as good as the top guys in the UFC. Plain and simple.
Ryan Bader.
Yeah, Bader. So Bader's a tough one for me because he did okay in the UFC, and he came over, and all of a sudden he was a star.
Yeah.
So is that because he got better, or is it because the talent was less?
Okay.
In his weight class, the talent was so-so. Fedor has some guys that Bader has fought who would also do well in the UFC. You know, now I think there's some tougher talent, but that's why he's lost a couple times as well. One to, I forget the guy's name, but also from Fedor's gym. He lost to the light heavyweight and retained the heavyweight title when he fought the guy from Fedor's. But he's good, man. And Nemkov, right, is the one
Yep.
that knocked out Bader on our Phoenix card. Oh, no. He knocked him out somewhere else. The Phoenix card, he beat the heavyweight because he had both belts. But anyway, he's a good example of someone who's kind of maybe, could go back and do okay there. But he's, in my opinion, he's not the elite of the elite like the guys like Usman Nurmagomedov, AJ McKee. Patricio Pitbull, I think, should have gone a couple years ago, when he was really in his prime. Now, I don't know. Patchy Mix.
Yeah.
There are guys that are going to go over there if they do and do really well. I also think these guys, the ones I'm mentioning, will go to PFL and run through it.
Yeah.
Everyone expected Rory to do that when he went. Rory was already kind of winding down his career in Bellator when he went to PFL.
He'd already peaked.
Yeah, and he won a couple, lost a couple, and was done. But had he gone to PFL when he first got to Bellator, he'd have ran through that $1 million tournament, no problem.
Stacked set of fights this weekend. I'm excited
Super
for
solid.
this. Yeah, it should be good. And
There's others that we didn't mention on the undercard and stuff
Yeah.
that are still great fights. I'll be tuned in the whole time.
It's going to
Probably
be
driving back from Little Rock.
it's going to be like a marathon worth of fights.
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots.
I have a
Lots
funny
of
story to
Russians
tell
on
you this weekend. I'm driving home from Kansas City. Tyler was wrestling up there, and I'm watching the UFC. I get pulled over, and as I pull over, the cop walks up to my passenger side window. I have a Glock under my seat and a 380 in my middle divider. So I turn on my light, put my hands on the steering wheel. I have my driver's license in my hand.
Yeah.
But I was taught how to get pulled over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he walks up to my passenger side window. So I roll down my passenger side window. He leans his head in, and he says, "Can I see your ID?" I hand it to him. He goes, "The reason I pulled you over is because you were driving down the middle of the highway." And I said, "Yeah, I was." Well, I said, "You want the truth?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "I was watching the UFC, and I figured if I drove down the middle of the highway, I could feel the things if I swerved left or right. So I was just trying to be safe." And he looks at my ID, goes, "Mr. Brennan." He goes, "Have a good night," and walked away. And I go, "Seriously?" And without even turning around, the window's down. He goes, "Yep, have a good night," and just kind of yelled it and kept walking back to his car. And I was like, "Oh my God." So I just got my car, or just started the car and started driving, turned the UFC back on. But
That's how you get pulled
that's my
over.
luck.
That's how you get pulled over. All right. Well, we'll recap these and see how we do. You went out on some limbs, so I'll be anxious to see how this turns out.
Pay attention to my picks. We'll see what happens next week. Have a good one.
It is all over, just like that.